Hello my dear students, I hope you all are fit and healthy. So today we will start with a new chapter, that is ecosystem. Before studying the chapter in detail, we must know some of the basic terms such as number 1, what is habitat? So what do you mean by habitat? It is the surrounding or place where an organism lives. So it is the place where an organism is living. That place or that surrounding is known as habitat. Now the next term is community. Several species of plants and animals living in the same habitat form a community. So let us say here is one habitat, right? This is a one habitat. Here are number of species of plants, right? Number of plants are there. Banana tree is there, mango tree is there, right? Guava tree is there, and number of animals are there, such as deer is there, and then you may say foxes here, right? In a forest. So these are different species of animals as well as these are different species of plants, but they are living in a same habitat, that is in a forest. They are found in a same habitat, so they are forming one community. So what is community? It is several species of plants and animals living in the same habitat forms a community. Then the next term is ecology. The study of interaction of biotic and abiotic components of the habitat is known as ecology. So what do you mean by biotic components? Means the living components. Here it is written the biotic components. So what does biotic term means here? Means it is related with some living matter, and abiotic means non-living components of the habitat. And the interaction, how they are interacting, the living and the non-living matter with each other, their study is known as ecology. Then the term ecosystem. So what is ecosystem? It is a community of living organisms in a given area or in a habitat. So it is basically a community. In community we know number of different species of plants and different species of animals. They are living in the same habitat. They are interacting with each other and with their non-living environment. Non-living environments such as weather, sun, water, soil and atmosphere. So here we have studied two things. Number 1 is ecosystem. It is a community. Community of different species of plants, or you may say animals, means living components. How they are interacting with the non-living components in that habitat. Now what are these non-living components such as weather, water? These are the non-living components in an environment. So it is known as ecosystem. An ecosystem is a community of living organisms in a given area or in a habitat interacting with each other and with their non-living environment, that is weather, sun, water, soil, atmosphere. And it shows three fundamental features. What are the three fundamental features? It is very important. The three fundamental features of the ecosystem are that they are interdependent. Interdependence of biotic and abiotic components on each other. So how these biotic, the living matter, just as you may say the plants or the animals, they are dependent on the abiotic components such as soil, such as water. How they are interdependent on one another, right? It is one of the fundamental feature of ecosystem. Then another one is energy flow. It is also a feature of ecosystem. Then exchange of materials between biotic and abiotic components. You know that in the process of photosynthesis, the plants, they take up water from the soil. So there is exchange of materials between biotic and abiotic component. The plant is a biotic component and abiotic component is a water. So there is a exchange of materials So these are the three fundamental features of an ecosystem. Then here it is written components of ecosystem. Two components are there, biotic and abiotic. So biotic, it is further divided into three types: producers, consumers and decomposers. We know, we have studied from the 5th class onward that what are producers? They are autotrophs, they are green plants that can prepare their own food through the process of photosynthesis. So these are known as producers. Then consumers. The consumers, these are the animals, right? Then decomposers. Decomposers are microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi which decompose the dead matter present in an environment, such as dead plant or dead animals. They decompose that matter. So they are known as decomposers. These are basically the microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi. Then these consumers, they are further divided into three types. Number one is herbivores, then carnivores, and then is omnivores. So what are herbivores? Herbivores, they are those animals which feed on plants. So they are known as herbivores. Carnivores are those animals which feed on herbivores or other animals. They are carnivores. Omnivores are those which feed both on plants as well as on animals. Then we have noticed here that herbivores, they are known as primary consumers, right? Then this carnivore is divided into two types: secondary consumer and tertiary consumer. So it is written, the secondary consumer is termed as primary carnivore and tertiary consumer is known as secondary carnivore. Now how it is? So let us assume one example here. This is a grass. It is eaten by deer. Then it is eaten by, you may say, lion. Right? So we will notice here that this deer, it is a primary consumer. This deer is a primary consumer. Then this lion, it is a secondary consumer, but it is a primary carnivore. Since lion is the carnivore, it feeds on other animal, but this deer, it feeds on green plants. So it is a herbivore, which is also known as primary consumer. Then lion is known as secondary consumer or primary carnivore. Then if lion, it is eaten by the another animal, you may say another animal such as eagle, right? When it is dead, then this eagle will become the tertiary consumer or secondary carnivore. So let us now study the differences between producers and consumers. What are producers and consumers? We know producers are those which produce something. Consumers are those animals which depend on producers. So the producers, they are autotrophs, and consumers, they are heterotrophs. Now see here, autotrophs. Autotrophs are those which can prepare their own food through the process of photosynthesis. So producers are the green plants, and heterotrophs are those animals which depend on other organisms for their food. So therefore consumers are also known as heterotrophs. Then they synthesize, in producers, they synthesize their own food by photosynthesis. Consumers, we know they can't synthesize their own food. Then the third point is they possess photosynthetic pigment, that is chlorophyll. Since producers, they perform photosynthesis process, they must be having a photosynthetic pigment, that is chlorophyll. And consumers, they are not at all preparing their own food, therefore the photosynthetic pigment is absent in them. They trap solar energy and convert it into chemical energy or organic compounds, and they do not trap solar energy, we know, since they are not at all performing photosynthesis and they are not trapping any solar energy, and the energy obtained is from the outside source. What type of outside source? Such as from other animal, right? The energy they are obtaining from the animal. Then the examples are all green plants and some photosynthetic bacteria. What are these photosynthetic bacteria? These are those bacteria which perform the process of photosynthesis, hence they are termed as photosynthetic bacteria. These are the examples of producers. Then consumers, all the animals and non-green plants which do not have the photosynthetic pigment present in them, they are known as consumers. Now let us study consumers. They are put it into three categories as we have studied. The herbivores. Herbivores, they are known as primary consumers. They feed on plants and plant products, and they are first order consumers. So first order consumers or primary consumers or herbivores, all these three terms means same. Means they are those animals which feed on the plants. So herbivores are also known as primary consumers, as well as they are also known as first order consumer. Then carnivores, they are known as secondary consumers. So carnivores that eat herbivores, they are known as primary carnivore or secondary consumers, and carnivores which prey upon primary carnivore or are secondary carnivore or tertiary consumer. So here the rabbit, it is eating a plant. The rabbit is eating a plant and it is the primary consumer. And then the snake, it is again eating a rabbit and it is now a secondary consumer. If the snake, it is eaten up by a eagle, then it will become a tertiary consumer, right? So this is a herbivore, but these two are carnivore, right? These two are carnivores. But we know carnivores here, secondary consumer and tertiary consumer, but this secondary consumer will be referred to as primary carnivore, and this tertiary consumer will be referred to as secondary carnivore, right? Now let us see what are omnivores. Omnivores are those that eat plants as well as animals. So examples, you know very well, human beings, they eat plants as well as animals, hence they are named as omnivores. Then decomposers. Decomposers are those organisms that break down complex organic compounds from the dead remains of plants and animals into simple inorganic substances. As I have told you that decomposers are those which decompose something. So what type of material they are decomposing? They are decomposing means, what do you mean by decomposing? Means to break down something into simple nutrient or simple substance, that is known as decomposition process. So the organisms which do this decomposition process, that is which break down the complex organic compounds which is found in the dead bodies of plants and animals into simple substances, so that simple substance must be used up by the plants. Those organisms are known as decomposers. Now here is transformers. These are special group of bacteria which disintegrate the simple organic substance into inorganic form that is suitable for reuse by producers. In the 7th class we have studied what is nitrogen fixing bacteria and those which fix the nitrogen. So this is an example of transformer. They were converting the ammonia into nitrite, then nitrite was further converted to nitrate, and that for nitrate was used up by the plants. So nitrogen fixing bacteria such as nitrosomonas, nitrobacter, these are transformers. These are special group of bacteria which disintegrate the simple organic substance into inorganic forms that are suitable for reuse by producers. So that was reused by plants. So that's all for today. Take care.